Please can members refrain from using the chat function, instead use the raise hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. May I also remind members that as per statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending a meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask that you all please use your cameras for the duration of the meeting. And please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking, and do not interrupt discussions until you have notified of your intention to speak and you've been invited to do so. Right, moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, welcome and apologies. Niall, do we have any apologies, please?
Yeah, morning, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Caroline Price and Nathan Yule.
Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members, do you have any interest to declare?
Just a question, Chair. Do we have to declare interest as ward members?
And as are you on Community Council?
Yes, I'm Blenavon Town Councillor and I'm Blenavon ward member.
And I was also a town councillor at the start of this project. Blenavon Town Councillor.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 3, minutes of the meeting 12th of October 2023. Members, to remind you, these are the minutes of the meeting scrutinising the Springboard Innovation Centre business case. Members, do you approve of these minutes? Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 4, the action sheet. Rebecca, could you please run through the action sheet?
Thank you, Chair. So as members will see, there's 2 actions on the action sheet. One was with regards to a seminar on serious violent crime, which I believe took place on the 20th of November. And then there's the second action, which is the recommendations from the last committee meeting, which you all have now received. So I have nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair. Thank
you very much. Right. We'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the Blenavon Townscape Heritage Programme. Obviously, I would like to welcome Councillor Joanne Gordon, Executive Member of Economy, Skills and Regeneration, Bethan McPherson, Head of Committees and Renewal, Rebecca Hartley, Team Leader, Strategic Place Projects, and Maya Sheen, Townscape Heritage Programme Manager. Firstly, can I thank Maya, who facilitated a visit to Broad Street by members of the committee last Friday, and also our thanks go to Bethlehem Chapel, who opened and spoke with members. I've been told it was a really valuable exercise prior to scrutiny today, so thank you very much. I'll now hand over to Councillor Gordon and Rebecca to give a brief introduction to the report, please.
Councillor, can you use your microphone?
Sorry, I'll start again. Morning, members, and thank you for the invite today. Through the Blenavon Townscape Heritage Programme, is still in the delivery stage, though there's been sufficient works for you to consider the extent that the programme is delivering the anticipated social and economic outcomes. I welcome your recommendations, which will be included in our reflections as we evaluate both the success of and the lessons learned of the Townscape Heritage Programme. Officer Rebecca Hartley, Team Leader for Strategic Place Projects, will take you through the detail of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon, and good morning, councillors. Just to summarise the report for you, you'll be aware that the Council secured a round 2 approval from the National Lottery Heritage Fund in July 2018 for a Blenavon THP within the Blenavon Town Centre Conservation Area, which was to be delivered over a 3-year time frame, originally 2018 to 2021. The Blenavon Conservation Area was designated in 1984 and covers much of Blenavon Town Centre. As the report details, since the grant offer was accepted, a number of external factors have hindered programme delivery. As a result, the THP delivery phase has been extended to the end of December 2025. It should therefore be noted that at present the THP is still in delivery. If I can take members to section 3 of the report, the vision and objectives of the THP are identified alongside the funding partners who have collectively contributed to the 1.9 million programme budget. In summary, the THP aims to support improvements to the historic built environment of conservation areas in need of investment, and the business case prepared at bid stage sought to capitalise on previous regeneration investment which had successfully refurbished 2 building blocks in the centre of Broad Street. Aligned to the potential to further assist the economic regeneration of the town centre was a recognition that there was also an opportunity to seek funding to support social regeneration objectives and to specifically enhance opportunities for engaging the local community in the global significance of their townscape's heritage. Section 4 of the report explains the programme is comprised of both capital and community-based activities. The capital side of the programme supports third-party property improvement grants to property owners within a specific area of Broad Street, which is presented in Appendix 1. Paragraphs 4.1 to 4.3 set out selection criteria and grant intervention rates and highlight that 14 properties were originally identified as either high or medium priority buildings. The focus of delivery has been to bring forward the 9 high priority buildings, particularly the former Market Tavern and Bethlehem Chapel, both of which represent key town centre buildings in need of investment. 5 of these buildings have come forward, with 3 completed to date and 2 currently in delivery. Capital outputs are detailed in paragraph 4.3 and outcomes and impacts in paragraphs 4.5 and 4.6. I draw your attention to Appendix 2, which details some before and after photographs of the buildings. It should be noted that the National Lottery is satisfied and has approved the reduction in the number of target properties to be improved through the THP from 9 to 5. As paragraphs 4.6 to 4.9 explain, the town centre continues to face many challenges, not least from the legacy of COVID and an increasing vacancy rate since 2019. Whilst vacancy rates have increased, there are some positive signs, not least private sector investment through other grant schemes and wholly led private sector investment, which are bringing 5 vacant buildings back into use. Areas of success are highlighted in paragraph 4.10. Key successes include unlocking the restoration and refurbishment of long-standing problem buildings, including Bethlehem Chapel and the Market Tavern, and safeguarding the Hub as an important youth facility within the town centre, which hosts the pioneering World Heritage Site Youth Ambassadors. Barriers to delivery are summarised in paragraph 4.11. Impediments to progress have been caused by a number of external factors, including the impact of the global COVID-19 pandemic on the construction sector and the ability of property owners to develop their schemes. Global economic stability has become significantly fragile with war in Europe and a downturn in the UK economy and cost of living crisis, which has brought rising inflation affecting confidence to invest in property. Despite these challenges, we have successfully brought forward 5 grant schemes, and the National Lottery are pleased with the capital outcomes. Progress on delivering the remaining property schemes is good, with both schemes due to be completed in the first half of 2024. The Council's Foundation Economy Officers and THP Project Manager are currently supporting the owner of the Market Tavern in identifying new businesses and tenants to occupy it. It should be noted that to protect the grant investment, each property owner is required by the terms and conditions of grant to enter into a legal contract with the council to maintain the property in a good state of repair for 10 years following completion of works, and grant can be reclaimed if they fail to do so. If I can take to section 5 of the report, the aims, objectives and key audiences of the community side of the programme are set out, along with a summary of the work completed and outcomes completed to date. You will see from table 4 that progress has been excellent, with many activities already achieved and some even exceeding their anticipated outcomes. Paragraph 5.6 sets out the findings of a mid-term plus review, which recognises the significant value the approach to community activity has achieved. Paragraph 5.8 sets out the areas of success, and it is noted that in working with THP delivery partners, the THP project manager has played a key role in the success of the programme and community activities to date. In terms of barriers to delivery, again, COVID has impacted progress. As paragraph 5.9 explains, despite the challenges, rethinking delivery methods has resulted in some innovative ways of working, with positive adaptation with each audience group, as well as new skills development, mainly in the digital form. The THP is now entering its latter stages of delivery. As paragraph 5.10 sets out, programme spend is on target. 5 rather than 9 buildings have benefited from grant support, and the number of buildings supported reflects interest from property owners. Cost estimates from some buildings have also increased from bid stage as a result of cost inflation within the construction market. A comprehensive independent review will be undertaken at programme completion, where a full assessment of the outputs and outcomes will be measured and reviewed. Having considered the report, members are invited to determine the extent to which the THP has achieved its intended economic and social outcomes, and to make recommendations to the Executive Member for Economy and Skills and Regeneration to inform the Council's approach to future commercial property grant programmes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that comprehensive report. Can I now invite the Executive Member and officers to contribute their responses as you feel appropriate, please?
To the questions.
One question. Right, so thanks, Councillor Gordon. No, sorry. Missed that one. Right, sorry, do apologise. Missed the line. I now invite members to ask their questions as per the list distributed by Rebecca following the pre-agenda. And question 1, which was relevant to paragraph 3.8, it's a question for myself. In March 2020, however, the THP project manager left the post, and despite repeated targeted recruitment processes, it has not been possible to recruit to the post. Have we considered what the reasons behind the difficulty in recruiting were, so that we can ensure future programmes are resourced appropriately?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we failed to recruit a replacement to that job description. I think what we've learned from that is that the type of skill set required to deliver a conservation-based grant scheme it's not a very wide skill set, and I don't think there are a lot of people out there that have the combination of skills of being able to understand conservation-based approaches to building refurbishments alongside the kind of technical aspects of construction. We tried repeatedly to replace that post, but unsuccessfully, which led to an alternative way of breaking down the responsibilities of that post, utilising the services of the Council's Conservation Officer and quantity surveyor at the time. So I think it's a particularly unique set of skills which the market just failed to provide to us at the time.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, right, sorry, Councillor Byrne has gone offline. So question 2 is being asked by Liam, and it's relevant to paragraph 3.8.
So paragraph 3.8 states that the services of the Council's quantity surveyor and lastly Blaenau Gwent County Borough Council's quantity surveyors have been utilised for cost management support and certification of grant works. The services of the Monmouthshire County Council's Conservation Officer were also utilised for specialist conservation skills. Was this lack of specialist skills identified prior to the programme commencing? Would this impact or be a barrier to delivering future commercial property grant programmes, and how would we plan to mitigate this risk in the future?
Thank you, Councillor Coles. We didn't anticipate that the market would fail to provide those skills to us. The person that actually came into post had actually done it for a long period of time previously, so came having delivered a number of THP programmes, so it was a brilliant appointment for us. Going forward, I think what we have learned is that if we were to do something like this again, we would need to rethink the job description and perhaps how we would develop the recruitment around future grant programmes that were specifically conservation-based. The nature of the programme is that the National Lottery like to support very high levels of building conservation, which means that you need a conservation specialist to be able to advise and agree specifications. So I think we would probably rethink how we delivered such a post in future and not rely on being able to find it in one job description and one person.
Thank you.
think just to recognise as well that the recruitment challenges we face are not unique to Torfaen either, and we're seeing a consistent pattern across the region. So skills such as QS, the conservation area skills, are limited across the region. So I think that's probably a longer consideration in terms of our workforce planning as well, in terms of how we bring in new trainees, is apprenticeships and opportunities. So I think it's just important to highlight that it's not just an impact for us as Torfaen, but a wider one, but something we need to plan for going forward.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Question 3, Councillor Nicola, please.
This is about 3.9. Can you provide us with some further detail on the findings and the outcomes of the 2 mid-term evaluations, and also the one in March? And what is the time frame for the final evaluation after the project's been finished?
Thank you, Councillor Hawler. We can provide the reports to date if you'd like to see that. They're very comprehensive. We've provided 3 to date, and that's at the requirement of the National Lottery. So we did a baseline report at programme inception, and then we've done 2. We were meant to do 1 review, but because we've been in a prolonged delivery period because of COVID, we've actually since done 2 mid-term reviews. Happy to circulate those to you. The final report is due probably summer 2024, date to be agreed, but it's likely to be towards the end of summer 2024. But we're happy to circulate those 2 as well, as and when available.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Okay, Councillor Hawler. Question number 4, Councillor Carl Gordon, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It relates to 4.2 on the report, the grant funding for property refurbishment. Were potential applicants supported with making their applications? With grant applications can be quite complex. So what level of support did we have for potential applicants? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Yes, they do have support. So the way that the grant programme works is that property owners, if they're interested, need to appoint their own agent with specialist building conservation skills. Those agent fees are eligible for grant support, which obviously enables the property owner to get the right expertise, which, as we've said, it's a particular set of skills, being able to develop conservation-based schemes. So those agents then work with the private property owner to develop their scheme of work. The agent is able to advise on eligibility criteria, which we provide to them, which says, what is and is not acceptable. They develop the scheme. The THP programme manager works in tandem, if you like, to sort of raise any concerns at key stages, so that by the time it gets into planning, if planning is required, both ourselves as the potential grant investor and the property owner is confident that in terms of eligibility, the works of the property should be acceptable. So they do have support both from their own privately appointed agent and from us as well.
Okay, happy with that. Okay, thank you very much. Question 5, again, Councillor Nicola.
So this is about 4.2. What potential applicants, were the potential applicants provided with any additional support to source match funding where this was provided as a barrier for them to go further within the programme? So we've had properties in the town that potentially couldn't take the funding because there wasn't, because there wasn't any funding there, or they couldn't source the funding. Was there any help on that?
Thank you, Councillor Hawler. Yes, we have worked with property owners that have come forward who needed additional match funding, and that match funding has come from sources like the Rural Development Plan and other smaller pots of funding. So where it's been required, yes, we have provided additional support to source external funding to bring forward the scheme.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Nicola, in question 6, please.
More questions. So this is about 4.4. Objective 1, the THP set out an example of good practice in the building conservation by supporting 9 property owners in delivering the heritage-based improvements for their properties. 4 of the high-priority buildings withdrew their interest, with the number of overall buildings decreasing. Will this have an impact on determining that we have had a successful delivering project? And I know that you mentioned that in your introduction. So.
Thank you, Councillor Hawler. Yes, we have seen a reduction. We set out to achieve 9 high priority buildings. We've achieved 5. And that has because property owners have in the end chosen not to participate. We've brought the National Lottery on that journey with us. We have a mentor appointed to the National Lottery, so they've been kept fully abreast of progress throughout, basically, and have agreed the reduction in the capital outcomes. And I think it's fair to say they've been very pleased that we have, given what we've overcome through the delivery period in terms of COVID, cost of living crisis, that they think it's remarkable that we have actually achieved 5 of those 9 buildings, which is really positive news for us.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's welcome to hear.
Right, thank you very much. Question 7. Councillor Liam Coles, take this one, please.
Thank you, Chair. One of the target outcomes in Table 3 in paragraph 4.5 is 2 times gross jobs created. The question is, where do we anticipate these jobs will be created?
Thank you, Councillor. First of all, the jobs there for 24 Broad Street will create possibly 2 or potentially 1.5, and then hopefully from the Market Tavern as well will produce those.
Okay, thank you. Over to question 8. Back to Councillor Nick Hawler, please.
This is on the table 4.5, table 3. 2% of increase of centre footfall. How will we measure the movement in footfall? I think this is quite a dominant question for.
Yes, it is. And those figures are to be determined because we're in a transition period. You'll be aware that we had previous footfall counters in the town which have collected data for, I think it was probably the first 18 months of the programme, but then we have had difficulty with the footfall counters and received patch data from the providers. We have in the interim period replaced those footfall counters with new footfall counters, so we couldn't do it in time for this meeting, but we need to go through a bit of an exercise of actually merging that data, which we hope to do by the end of the programme. But you're right, you know, it is a key statistic to measure whether or not investment has had a positive economic impact on the town, so we should be able to provide that data probably as part of the monitoring report at the end of next summer.
Yes, certainly.
I just wondered, on reading the report, Rebecca, where did that 2% target come from? Was it, you know, how did you come up with that figure?
That was a figure which we determined through the bid development stage. So that was a figure that we built into the business case as a way of measuring whether the investment was going to have any impact on town centre footfall.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Question 9 now, which goes 4.7. The main impact has been an increase in the number of vacant properties on Broad Street, which has increased from 11 in 2019 to 17 in 2022. Obviously, you know, you haven't got a crystal ball or whatever, but do you anticipate that this is a trend that we could likely reverse?
Thank you, Chair. I think, you know, the high street across Britain is suffering. It's not unique to Blenavon, unfortunately. We have seen an increase in the number of vacancy rates within the town centre over a programme delivery period. We have, you know, through the programme will have brought 2 of them back into use. What we are seeing is participation from private property owners in sister grant schemes, which we're offering through Welsh Government sources in the town centre, and even private property owners coming forward and funding works entirely by themselves. So there are positive signs that the private sector is beginning to recover. We won't know the outcome of the programme until next year, if not a little bit longer as well. But whilst we have seen a decrease, we may be back in the trend. We'll have to see what the data shows us next summer. But yeah, it's not a problem unique to Blenavon, unfortunately.
Yes, certainly.
And I think just to highlight from a broader service area, we have the foundational economy team now starting to build, and I think that the work that they'll be doing, especially going forward over the next sort of 12 to 24 months, is about how can we wrap around support to businesses that complements the capital works that go on. So we have 2 officers that will be supporting very much around foundational economy businesses? How do we take a different approach in Blaenavon potentially to try and draw in new businesses? So I think it's important not to look at it in isolation, but actually as a package of support that we're able to bring forward. And that then will further complement the work that we're doing around sort of trying to establish destination Torfaen as well, and trying to sort of feed off that visitor opportunity that we've got within the borough.
Okay, thank you very much. Question 10, again, Councillor Nick Hawler, please.
That follows on. So a number of the properties are on the TFP high and medium priority list, suggesting the properties owners are still reluctant to undertake property improvements in the current economic climate and may still require incentives of grant funding to enable properties improvements to be undertaken. How can these be taken forward once the programme finishes and the grant funding is no longer available? It's a chicken and egg. We need the town to look better. We've got business in the town that potentially will be looking for more funding, but as we know, the footfall isn't as strong as it has been in the past. How can we help?
So I'd say in the broader sense, we know that sort of funding availability is becoming increasingly limited. So, you know, the certainty around being able to access funding to support the businesses is not a guarantee. However, what we have got is the Blaenavon placemaking plan, which has obviously been approved as a strategy. So that'll set out, you know, our ambition going forward. And we use that as a platform to try and leverage those conversations with the Welsh Government and with other funding bodies to try and draw in additional programmes. Bex might want to come in terms of the sort of the Transforming Towns funding we've had for properties and perhaps where that's going in the medium term.
Thanks, Beth. Yes, we have got another grant scheme which operates in Blaenavon, which comes through the Welsh Government's Transforming Towns agenda. It's placemaking grant. There's one of the properties in the lower part of Broad Street is currently benefiting from that grant scheme. We do have properties allocated within that a pipeline of projects, if you like, which takes us up to the end of next year. Thereafter, we await further updates from Welsh Government on whether or not that scheme is extended further, but we can keep members updated on that as and when we know. Thank you.
Okay, many thanks. And question 11, I think it's the last of his questions. Back to Councillor Kohler, please.
So 4.10 sets out the points of success of the programme. Have we considered the impact the works have had on the terms of deterring people from using Broad Street? Now, I kind of get the fact that we've had to put the scaffolding up, but currently there is a private business going through the process of renovation. The scaffolding went up very quickly and it came down very quickly. Have we looked at the deterring people, the scaffolding deterring people, the residents that use Broad Street?
Sorry, can I just clarify? Do you mean during delivery, construction works, the impact of scaffolding on people who use it? Right, okay. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Market Tavern, it's a major renovation scheme. We have to allow the contractor to undertake the works, and that does involve, unfortunately, extensive levels of scaffolding, and similarly across the road. So we do have two properties opposite to one another at the moment with scaffolding. It is temporary and necessary, and I appreciate it does impact on some users of the town centre, but the end result, hopefully, of both investment of both alongside HM stores will encourage people back, because you will see 3 buildings in a row that have significantly been improved, and that might actually, it will create a more attractive destination in the parts of town, and hopefully people will come back. So it's temporary but necessary, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add as well, obviously there's always planning permission, isn't there? And then they look at building control as well, so that should limit and mitigate the disruption to the community. But I know you're very good at keeping in touch with us, but, you know, if we can rely on your local knowledge, if you can see there's a bigger issue than there needs to be and there's something potentially we can do to help, please let us know.
And I think probably just thinking about the communication as well, I think there's an opportunity for us as a team to sort of use it once the work is complete to almost promote the good work and the enhancements that have taken place, to sort of celebrate that. So whilst there's a temporary disruption, isn't it, it is for that long-term gain, and we've got a part in terms of that communication messaging around that.
Come back on that. the complaint?
Yes.
Sorry. Do you have a regime of a program of comms that will be going out now? Because obviously comms is quite important to the community. It's telling the community why we're doing it and where the money's coming from. You know, what kind of program have we got on that? Because people look at the funding and go, we don't get anything in Blaenavon, and we're having a lot of funding put into the town. And not many, there are people that are not aware of that.
Thank you, Councillor Horler. Yes, we have done 2 newsletters, I think, through the Civic Society, which has informed residents of town of the investment that's taking place. We do regular press communications to inform people of key projects which have been implemented, both on the capital and the community side. And we use social media in terms of Instagram as well to keep people informed of progress. As we move towards programme completion, we will look perhaps to do some form of event to showcase investment to the community that will involve community partners as well, to bring the programme to an end so that we can demonstrate what the level of investment has been. Obviously, the community has been embedded in an awful lot of the activities throughout the programme, not least the local schools, the history groups, etc. So yes, we will look towards a programme end event.
Yes, certainly, Councillor Horler.
Becky, you mentioned Instagram. I think the majority of the people within Blaenavon that have any interest in the town use other social media channels. Is there any chance of actually increasing the scope of where you're pushing out that comms, i.e. could you potentially go onto the land of Facebook and push it through? Because people do use Instagram, but I think the majority of people that are interested in our town use more social media is probably more Facebook than Instagram.
Councillor Horler, we haven't got a Facebook under the THP scheme, but we have got access to various other Facebooks. We do link where possible to the Town Council's Facebook, also the World Heritage Centre's Facebook as well. I fully accept that Instagram doesn't have the reach, but actually it's worked quite well as well. I would say it's actually been one of the successes, starting from nothing. I think it's done quite well. The other thing that we do is obviously support. We do a lot of walking around and sharing the information and attending lots of other groups to promote the work. So I think for the council, maybe in the future, if they were running another scheme, then a Facebook page specifically around this could be an idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Some good points there. On to question 12. Councillor Carl Gordon, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. 4.12 of the report talks about protecting the grant investment. Each property owner is required by the T's and C's of the grant to maintain the property for 10 years following completion of works. And there's a caveat: the grants can be reclaimed if they fail to keep up that maintenance. The condition we've put on there of maintaining the property for 10 years, is that, or has that been a deterrent for businesses applying for grant funding? Because it's a bit of a messed up economic climate at the moment, and 10 years is a long commitment. So has that had an impact, the 10-year clause?
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. It hasn't to date. That requirement is actually a stipulation of the funder. That's something that the National Lotteries terms and conditions of grant require us to do, and that is to protect the grant investment, because substantial sums are awarded, and as a local authority as well, and the match funders who put funding into the partnership pot want to see the condition of those buildings maintained to that standard for as long as possible. So they do have to sign a legal contract with us to promise us that, and we do ask them to submit to us 10-year management and maintenance plans, which sets out to us how they intend to maintain the property in the condition the grant has created.
Okay, yes, certainly.
Yes, thanks. Just by way of a follow-up, who's kind of the arbiter of if a property falls below a certain standard? Is that the sort of Heritage Lottery? Is that Torban Council? Where's the checks and balances on upkeep and maintenance of the property?
That would be the council as the grant recipient. So the National Lottery require us to do it through the offer of grant they make to us. We accept those terms and conditions and promise to them that we will implement it. So that's incumbent upon us as the grant recipient to make sure that we probably go out once a year just to have a look at the building. If we notice, things like rainwater goods have got plants growing out of them, then we will take that up with the owner and ask them to address it. If, over a number of years then the building starts to deteriorate significantly, then we have got that legal contract which they have signed, which we can seek to implement to recover some of the grant funding if we feel it's necessary.
Just on that question, and the grant refunding, say, for argument's sake, after 5 years, you decided that, it wasn't being kept at the standard it was. Is that grant return then in pro rata to the number of years from 1 to 10, please?
Yes, that's exactly it. So what we've got a 10-year frame which when they sign the legal contract, it's not just about maintaining the property, but if they were to sell it as well, then we would have a course of action to reclaim the grant funding. So for the first 5 years, we can reclaim 100% of the grant, and then from 5 years to 0, it goes kind of to 80, 60, 40, 20% of the grant would be reclaimed. So yes, we have a discourse where we can reclaim funding based on it not being looked after or it being sold.
Thank you very much. Question 13. Can Councillor Liam Cole take that one, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Is there criteria in place to ensure the social economic benefits for the community outweigh the potential for private ownership to significantly profit off the grant funded investment over the long term?
It's a tricky one. That there are no specific kind of criteria in place. The purpose of making the grant funding available has been to kind of stimulate private sector investment in the town because it's lacking. A lot of these properties have a conservation deficit on them, so there's no incentive for the owner to invest, and that's where the public sector has to come in and support property owners. We should, logic says that we should have more social and economic benefits from an improved building than one which is a kind of icon of despair for the town centre, which some of our properties have been. The Market Tavern in particular has been, a building which has been very visibly falling down for a number of years, which is then to the detriment of all the businesses that are trying to trade around it. Local residents who see a building falling down. So yeah, no set criteria, but hopefully improved buildings will bring more economic social benefits than ones that we just allowed to fall down.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry.
And I think probably just to sort of reinforce that, the outcomes that are sort of set out within the grant highlights how we're delivering that when we talk about sort of the job creation potential, isn't it? The increased footfall, the additional business that come into the area. So I think the heavy focus on that within the outcomes sort of serves to highlight how regeneration of the building fabric actually serves to deliver those wider benefits.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, certainly, Councillor Gordon.
So yes, I think the reason for asking that question really was, isn't this a good business opportunity for entrepreneurs then, shall we say, who receive a massive chunk of grant funding and have the ability to sort of look at a longer term vision and sort of refurbish a property where you only pay 30% of those costs, but then in 10 years that's yours to sell on or whatever. So, I know we're tying people in for 10 years, but if you're prepared to sit and wait, it's quite a lucrative business opportunity, isn't it, for an entrepreneur? And I wonder whether that sort of loss to the community then, when it changes hands, it sort of outweighs the immediate benefits. I know I've convoluted that question a little bit, but when we went to visit some of the properties that were subject to the THP, it struck some of us that, that's a nice little earner, as they say. If you're prepared to, it's kind of an ISA, isn't it? You invest some money and it pays off further down the line. This appears to be a quite lucrative way of doing that.
I Councillor Gordon. I understand your point, and that is the reason why the National Lottery do put that. No other funder puts 10 years on any clawback scenario, so they do recognise that. I think it's important to point out that without any kind of public grant stimulation, if you like, the private sector would not invest at all. And you will eventually have a town centre which is completely blighted by dereliction, which is, if you can remember what Blenavon looked like 20, 25 years ago, where it was completely derelict, you end up in that kind of situation, which is not good for any economic or social outcomes. So being able to support the private sector in bringing forward the buildings for investment, I think is key to the survival of wider town centre businesses. And as I said, that 10-year clawback scenario is a disincentive, certainly for 10 years, from selling it. But it's also important to note that private property owners do put in substantial private match funding themselves. It's not 100% funded, so some of them are putting in considerable sums themselves.
Just quickly, and I think Beck, you made the point as well, just in terms of where we are within a conservation area as well. The costs associated with doing those works are considerably higher because of the standard that they need to maintain. So I guess that's where that grant intervention becomes so important. And there is that gain, I guess, if you occupy that building and a thriving business becomes an occupant of that building, then hopefully there isn't that incentive to want to sell it on either, because they, it's part of the town centre high street.
Okay, thank you very much. On question 14, which covers 5.2, 4 key audiences were identified. Are we confident that we have delivered activities aimed at all 4 audience groups, please?
Thank you. Yes, we are. The actual programme, when it was developed, obviously focused on these 4 audiences, 4 target groups. So all the community activities were built around those. So over the 10 activities, every single age group basically got engaged to deliver. So, okay.
Councillor Gordon?
Yeah, just to say, I went to see one of the activities in Blenavon, invited by Maya. It was a film, so it was a film of people from days gone by in Blenavon, and then local residents of all ages. They were actually in the film. It was professionally done, and they acted out the profile of that person from years gone by, and everyone in the audience covered those 4 profiles as well. That really was a memorable night. It was a real treasure.
Okay, thank you very much. Question 15, our final question. I've got 15, sorry, it's not a final question on the page. Question 15, it comes to Carl Gordon.
Thank you. This picks up one of the 4 key audiences, I guess, the primary school education activities. I just want to add my thanks to Maya for the visit as well. Your passion for and commitment to the project shines through, really does. So well done. I appreciate it says on your we're still awaiting data, but have we achieved our targets so children will develop their numeracy, literary and other skills, including arts, design and entrepreneurship? Are we confident that we've reached that? I think I know the answer. And how can we be sure that this programme has specifically led to those outcomes?
Thank you. With this, when this programme was developed, it was in line with a different structure within the school. So it was actually targeted in terms of the client group within the pupils was at the more able children. That obviously didn't transpire to end up being that deliverable, because obviously the children had changed during the whole period that the programme was developed. What I would say in terms of how we've monitored the literacy, numeracy and digital and entrepreneurship skills is from a report that the school creates. So we provide activities that hopefully will support that development, but it's actually the school that captures those specific outcomes. We've had one full report over what ended up being a 3-year delivery as opposed to 2-year because of COVID. And that full report, the details are presented there. The other thing to bear in mind is with the outcomes, we were initially targeting 150 pupils, which was all of year 5. The classes actually got reduced, so we're actually targeting against, I think it's 115 now. So I'm still seeking all of that information because it's hard for this scheme to actually effectively evidence literacy and numeracy. That would be the school's role, really. But we are trying to seek out that further information. Where it has been difficult was COVID, because COVID hit at the end of week 4 of the 6-week second-year delivery, so we'd almost finished the 2 years. And I'm confident if we hadn't have hit COVID, we would have secured that report, and it would have evidenced just based on delivery number 1, because obviously we'd learned a lot from our first delivery. We did a lot of evaluation and looking how we could improve it. So in terms of the second part of your question, I think it was in terms of a legacy for them to deliver in the future. We have created a learning model for that school, so in the future that they can pick up on all of those activities. So I think for future that they can deliver those activities and should be able to target them effectively as well. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Question 16, Councillor Nick Hawler.
CA 3D on 5.5 work-based construction apprenticeship programmes. The local contractors will diversify their skill base to enable to work on heritage properties. How will we measure this?
Thank you for the question. We do a questionnaire at the start for the contractors, and then do an end of delivery questionnaire as well to measure what areas they have learnt in terms of conservation construction and what that project has given them as a result of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're on to question 17, CA6B. 10 community members will have enjoyed themselves while developing filmmaking skills. How have we sought this feedback, please?
Again, we do we call it a baseline and end of project evaluation. So we capture data at the beginning under a certain set of questions, and then capture that data at the end to measure distance travelled. So we will achieve that target as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Question 18, back to Councillor Nick Hawler.
Could more be done to improve public awareness and the knowledge of the community offer? Could more be done to improve the public awareness and the knowledge of the community offer? So we're talking about the way that the project's been managed and how the community know about it. Is that right?
I think improvements can always be made. I do actually think that because of the way the programme has been delivered and we have such a local presence, that has greatly supported the community's awareness of the schemes. I think the promotional marketing, for example, the scaffolding banners that are up, that they draw a eye to it, so questions about. And I think also because of our partnership working and our connections within the community and the community groups and obviously town council have also supported that. So I think you can always improve, but I think our product as such is recognised out there.
Okay, thank you. Moving to question 19, back to Councillor Calhoun, please.
Thank you, Chair. In 5.5 of the report, a number of the actions there are marked as complete. I want to talk about what will be the ongoing legacy of these community activities. The second part of the question is, have these activities been reviewed to see which have had the most impact and which should we carry on delivering once the programme comes to an end?
Thank you for the question. In terms of legacy, we have started every deliverable with an exit strategy. So with the schools engagement project, the plan was always that we would create a learning model, and that model has been created and it is with the school. So that's the legacy for that. With the apprentices and working with construction companies, we're obviously hoping to embed with them that they will have learnt new skills. So for the apprentices, that will support their employability. And for the companies concerned, if they have learnt new skills, that will support their ability to apply for different contracts in the future, so you'll increase their business. With the legacy of the work we've been doing with the civic society, it's online resources that are permanently there, and also there was magazines. The legacy also via the workshops, that knowledge is retained, and hopefully the local building owners can learn, can take that forward, I suppose, and continue to maintain their properties. With the film that you referred to earlier, that film is actually going to be embedded into Visit Blaenavon website. It's 11 short films that make up one film. So we're looking that you can access one film at a time or watch the whole product. It will also be, copies will also be given to the Arthur Jenkins Care Home as an activity for that organisation. We'll be giving them to the 2 primary schools. The Blaenavon Museum has also approached us to ask if they can have a copy that they'd like to put on loop. So that's a legacy, it will continue there. With the book that we created, the legacy we were looking at for that was that it wouldn't just sit on the shelf, basically. So we engaged with primary schools and secondary schools and invited them into an exhibition, and the book was part of that exhibition. It was a book launch. And encourage them as a tool for, particularly that fits into the current school curriculum now. Know your area, know your history and culture. That would be a learning, sorry, I'm mingling a lot here, a learning resource for them as well. It's also in the libraries, and also following on from that with the exhibitions we created, information booklets, folders that also went to the school that they can add in further information, but those folders also went to World Heritage Centre, the libraries, the Lion Hotel, different places where visitors would be as well. The other legacies are around with the exhibitions. So with My Navon, which was the young person's exhibition, that is a permanent YouTube video. That's also available on the Visit Blaenavon website. But also a further legacy of that, there was the BBC picked it up on their research. Their researchers contacted us, and the BBC Slates, the art programme, came down and actually did a whole programme on that activity. Can I just have a glass of water?
You're allowed to pause for breath.
Sorry. So the photography exhibition that we created the booklets for, which was created by Blaenavon Heritage History Group, that exhibition has now been picked up by Big Pip, and it's actually on display there for a 6-month period as well, and we're doing a bit of promotion up there to hopefully encourage footfall down into the town for visitors too big to come to the town. We created a tapestry that's 2 18-foot long interactive work, basically, where you can hear stories. Our exit strategy on that was, where will it go? Because 18 is quite long. So we liaised with Arthur Jenkins, and they have it now as a permanent tool, largely around memory and dementia, not just for people who are living there, but also families as an interactive tool when they're there. Because of the success of that, our final exhibition is the one we are now developing, which is digitalising the tapestry, taking that further, so adding further information, and that will form a touchscreen display, permanent display in the World Heritage Centre. So that's our legacy. So we've always started that as an exit programme, really, because we didn't want things just to be created and left, really. In terms of the impact on the community, I think the impact we've taken every project and tried to maximise it out, and that includes not just the numbers of people engaged, but also types of people, so trying to make things intergenerational. So with Mine Avenue, it was a young person's project that was targeted at 10 young people. We ended up engaging with 16 young people and Blind Have a Male Voice Choir, who sing the background Mavanwi to it, but also the young people then engaged with the History Heritage Group, St Peter's Church, the museum, again finding out information and that. And so I think a legacy and kind of like the impact of the community there was about intergenerational work, but also maybe breaking down fears and preconceptions of different age groups. Do you want me to carry on? In terms of delivery at the end, the end offer, I think that really links back into our exit strategy, that everything we've tried to create, or everything we have created, would have a sustainable legacy. Is that okay?
And I think probably as a council and probably as a wider partnership, I think we have a responsibility to almost now consider how do we harness and use all of that amazing resource, because I don't think we can argue with the volume of work that's been created during that period of time. And for me, I think there's a rich resource there for us to utilise, both in terms of when we talk about destination Torfaen and really sort of creating Blaenavon as a heritage destination for people. Also, when we talk about our community's approach, for me, lots of what you were just talking about, that intergenerational work, those resources that work with the elderly, with young people, serves to harness, how that can be delivered and delivered successfully. So, yeah, for me, it's amazing to hear all of that, but I think it's now, how do we carry that forward and actually make sure we don't lose that resource?
Okay, Councillor Carl Gordon.
You haven't done much there. No, it was generally fantastic to hear that, and fantastic to see it when we came to visit. I think Beth is spot on. That shouldn't die with the end of the project now. I was particularly taken by the digitalisation of Broad Street, and the potential there is huge. And it's not necessarily a question there for you to answer. It's just a statement, really. I think this needs to go a bit wider. You hear about these immersive experiences. I went to see one at Bristol, a Van Gogh thing, and it blew me away. Right? If we could scale that down, and we went to something in Springboard with BT Brown, it's like a porta cabin thing.
5G immersive.
5G immersive thing. That would lend itself to that type of environment. And when you say visit, destination Torfaen and all that, that would bring people in. I'd go and see it again in a heartbeat. It was brilliant. So I think not necessarily a question for today, but I think the legacy on the town is brilliant. The legacy on sort of youngsters in the community there is fantastic, well done. But as Beth said, let's not let that die with the project. There is so much to take out of this now and develop. But I'm particularly keen on the immersive experience of Broad Street. And it's voiced by local people, and it's got stories, and newspaper clippings from way back when, and it sounds a bit dry now I'm talking through it. But it's really been brought to life by the project, so thank you.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Yes, very good. So move on to question 20, and back to Councillor Nicola, please.
You'll be pleased to know this is my last question. 5.10 table. Cost estimates for some buildings have increased from the bid stage as a result of the cost of inflation within the construction market, and some additional works has had to be identified on the application stage. These costs increased took the capital investment within £25,000 of the estimated outturn spend of the programme completion. Does this indicate that if there were significant capital outspend, that if all 9 properties had come forward?
Thank you, Councillor Hawler. Yeah, essentially, when we developed the original costings for the business case, we were back in 2017, very different world compared to today, unfortunately. So what we had budgeted then was the ability to support 9 buildings. They weren't detail costs because we didn't know if those property owners were going to come all the way with us. So they were indicative costs which informed the funding approval. As we entered delivery, the properties that have come forward have been based on owner interest. So 5 have come forward. I think it's fair to say all of those 5s, when they've been tendered, have cost more than we originally budgeted for. But we've been very fortunate in that we have been able to accommodate most of the cost of that with the existing capital approval. So that's been quite an achievement. Had 9 come forward, then I doubt we would have been able to have afforded, or we wouldn't have been able to afford to support all 9. But luckily, the way it's panned out, we have been able to support each and every property owner that has approached us for grant, which is really good.
And I think to just point out, Sinead, that includes the sort of the most prominent buildings that actually that was the original aspiration. So I think in terms of value and output, then that's a really good achievement for the team.
Okay, thank you very much. Question 21, please, Councillor Liam Colt.
Thank you. The THP project manager role and responsibilities has demonstrated the value of a focused, place-based regeneration approach and way of working. What is the potential for maintaining this approach going forward and having dedicated resources?
Thank you, Councillor Coles. The THP is obviously a fixed-term programme, and that comes with a fixed-term officer. Unfortunately, credit to Mara, she's been an outstanding appointment. I think we all agree there. But yeah, in terms of continuation, the THP will end next year. I think Maya will leave us next autumn. The programme then will finish about a year later by the time we mop everything up. So yeah, going forward in terms of place-based, I think you're right. Maya has been very visible within the community. People know who she is, what she does, and I think that has been a success. Going forward, we don't have the resource to be able to be as focused in terms of regeneration, in terms of place-based regeneration. We do have a Blenavon placemaking plan, which which is brand new, which gives the strategy for the next 10 years. So we have a new strategy that we will begin to implement through preparing delivery plans shortly. But yeah, we won't have an officer physically based in Blenavon working specifically on a particular programme.
Yes, certainly.
Obviously, you mentioned that the THP project ended. Have you thought about the wider ongoing economic strategy after it ends? So after the works are complete, there needs to be a bit more than just works complete and walk away. There needs to be an ongoing promotion of the town centre and these works following the ending of the THP project. And I wondered what thoughts you've got as to how that will work after the project ends.
I think it's really an important point, and I think from my perspective, certainly we don't see the physical place and then the business incentives being two separate things. And I think that's recognising the fact that we are developing the foundation economy team. So that will actually bring additional resource to support activity, including within Blenavon. We have the economy and skills strategy, within which there is a focus on foundation economy, which is where we talk about those town centre businesses. So going forward, you know, the team there, so we have Tim Monkton, who's one of the officers. He's already engaged in Blenavon and looking at, you know, how do we incentivise businesses, how do we support those that are existing. And that does include, you know, a range of support from sort of training, mentoring, potential grant assistance, etc. So I think it's a reassurance from us that we have the placemaking plan, we have the economy and skills strategy, and we have additional resource coming into the team to enable us to deliver a more rounded approach, I think, and rather than seeing them as separate. So I think, yeah, there is a commitment. It will probably just look different and not a dedicated resource.
Okay. Question 22, and it's a final question. In summary, how will we ensure that the lessons learned are fully evaluated and taken on board for future programmes?
Yes, I think we've got a final monitoring exercise which will be carried out next summer with a report to you, as I said, at the end of summer. That will look completely holistically at the delivery period, which by then will have been about 6 years. So there's a tremendous amount of data there to be processed, and a lot of things to look at and learn from, I think, and certainly to evaluate and scrutinise. I think going forward, what we would have learned from this is, I think we've learned quite a lot from this in terms of delivery, haven't we, Maya, in terms of challenges that we've had to overcome. I think the Townscape Heritage Programme Board will want to see that report, and our delivery partners will want to see that report and have the opportunity to comment. Obviously, the National Lottery will want to have a look at that. So I think what we would look to do is, once we have the outcome of that final report, is to maybe have a kind of debrief session with all of our funding partners, which also includes CADU, Glenavon Town Council, and ourselves as a local authority, to look back and reflect on what went well, what didn't go so well, and what we can learn for the future. So I think that will be something that we can arrange towards the end of next year.
Councillor Gordon first, please.
Thank you. If I could just add, it would make good sense as well, and when we get to that point and we've got the review and we're very specific about what lessons have been learned and what the successes are, is that we have a member seminar so that all members are cited of, you know, this great piece of work that's gone on in Glenavon.
Yeah, absolutely. Councillor Nicola, I think you've got something to add?
Just a quickie, I'd just like to personally thank the team for the hard work they've done over the years to make Glenavon look better than it has done in the past. Thanks. Hats off to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, many thanks. I was fascinated and thorough answers, and yeah, it's fantastic to see the work being done in Glenavon, and you know, obviously the history up there is you know, older than anything in Torvine, and that's got to be kept in the public eye. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Before I've got to ask you to leave the meeting, have you got any concluding remarks you'd like to put to us? Well, once again, thank you very much. Really enjoyable session, and thanks. Right, members, can I remind you that the meeting is still in formal proceedings and therefore still being webcast. Members can refer you now to the scrutiny activity, I invite you to offer your recommendations. So I'd like to hand over to Rebecca, who will formulate the recommendations of members.
Thank you, Chair and members. So if I can just draw your attention to that scrutiny activity. So as a committee, you've been asked to determine to what extent the THP delivery within Blenavon achieved the intended wider economic and social outcomes. So would you like to put any comments or recommendations forward on that particular aspect?
It could be Nick guaranteed.
Yeah, I think the summary of the midterm evaluation assessment and where it is, I think we, as a scrutiny group, should have that to finalise that off. We've got, and they did mention that in the meeting, and also obviously the last evaluation that happens after the budget finishes next year. So I think that could be a recommendation that we do see those products. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the first point you made about the midterm assessments, I have noted that then as an action point rather than a recommendation, so I make sure you'll get that. And then obviously, like you said, there was the discussions on the end of term assessment and evaluation, and the exec member did offer them for a members' seminar to update members on that. So if there's nothing further on that point, then the final point within the scrutiny activity is to provide comments and recommendations to the exec member for economy, skills and regeneration on the wider principles when delivering commercial or property grant programmes in the future. Any specific recommendations on that?
Sorry. We asked some questions about the skill set for the project leaders. And you know, we need to ensure that we've got the right people in place to deliver these projects, because I think we drifted a little while, didn't we, due to recruitment issues. But yeah, whether we can get those people in place before we, you know, create a project is a moot point. But you know, it's pointless having sort of off-the-peg project ready to go and we just run it, you know.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Yeah, I did note that one down as well, because they did say it's a longer-term consideration in terms of workforce planning. So yeah, I'll pop that down as a recommendation. I did have only one more that you may want to consider. Obviously, you mentioned around the communications. I know they do a lot, but whether they consider more the demographic of an area when they're doing it, and what would be the most appropriate forms of communication with that community.
From the point of view that there was a lot of people in the community that didn't know about the project and were wondering how long it was taking, and why the Market Tavern was in the position it was, and how long the Market Tavern was going to be in the position it was, and how it was. There was a little bit of a lack of communication between this project and the community, highlighting the issues. I kind of get the fact that they put the banners on the buildings when the scaffolding went up. But I think we got, as members, lots of comments. What's happening with the Market Tavern?
We were bombarded
with those questions. Yeah. And I think the majority of people within Blenavon that have any interest in the town would probably use Facebook more so than Instagram, and that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
And I guess more timely sort of communications then when developments are starting, rather than just...
I think to a certain degree that actually put a bit of a hostility in the town, because it kind of, you know, we were kind of promoting the fact that this was happening and the amount of money that was being spent, but they were going, well, we don't see it and we're not seeing it. I think it did make an impact on the project. Would you not agree with it?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think the THP hasn't always been that popular in the town because of the communication breakdown, because of the massive delays in the works of those two main buildings, which is obviously going to become one becoming Menchie's, one becoming the regeneration of the Market Tavern. I think regular updates to residents would have been able to placate that a little bit more, and I think that's an important recommendation, because there was that much of a delay, and obviously COVID happened and the Market Tavern was just getting worse and worse and worse. I think there was a lot of comments of, where's this money going, why hasn't this money been spent? So I think the communication is key for future projects with residents to stop that from happening.
Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just looking at the scrutiny activity, so provide comments and recommendations to the executive member on the wider principles when delivering commercial stroke property grant programmes. This has been much wider than the property grant programme because of the sort of it's been about Blaenavon and heritage and all the rest of it. What I would say though is if there are property grants available to sort of regenerate areas or buildings or whatever, a suggestion that should include some of the sort of activities we've modelled in the Blaenavon project around heritage, around learning, or going to schools. Sort of some community activity. So a bit of payback. So, you know, I'm also on the planning committee, and when, you know, there's a section 106, so if you're building a load of houses, you give some money towards, you know, a play area or improving the community. So on that kind of very loose principle, any sort of where businesses are taking advantage of or utilising grant funding to sort of do up properties, there's some sort of community payback in terms of heritage or learning or going into schools or that sort of thing. All about making Torvine a better place, a better community.
Thank you, members. I didn't have any other information in terms of recommendations, so unless you've got anything further.
Carl, you mentioned about the opportunity to push this programme out further in the way of the 5G. Could we have a recommendation that looked into? Because I think that would be beneficial. I think really that would be a beneficial, what's the word? The final result of this was to be able to produce that, and I think that would, in terms of being digital, would actually enhance the heritage town in the way it would. It would give more interest in the town digitally in the way that it's been produced. I kind of take that on board. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think, as I said, that wasn't sort of, it's not necessarily pertinent to this committee to sort of, we can put that recommendation on there, but it will be remitted to wherever's appropriate. But as I said, to the question, it was really, really taken with what they've done there, and there's an opportunity to sort of build that in to the sort of heritage offer and the tourism offer we've got in Blaenavon, and I think it would bring people in. I'd go and see it again.
But it could be said that that opportunity at that time will final product into any other kind of projects that they do forward, that could actually be a part of the criteria within it, because that's the enhancement of what's being done.
Okay, thank you very much. So, agenda item 6. Item for next meeting. Rebecca, can you please take members through this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So yes, this is the report where you consider the item that you'll be scrutinising at your next meeting. So as you will see from the appendix, there were no audit committee referrals in this time period relevant to this committee. On the exec forward plan is the Cumbrae placemaking plan and also the street naming and numbering policy, which are not pertinent to scrutiny activity. So as per your basket of items selected at visioning in the summer, the next item that you had selected, which follows on actually a lot from what you've discussed today, is Destination Torvine, including the World Heritage Centre. So Beth has referred to that a lot today, so I guess that would be the next follow-on. So our members happy to consider that? Yeah, lovely. Thank you, members.
Okay, yeah, lovely. Destination Torvine. Thank you very much, Beth. And then agenda item 7. Date of next meeting will be on the 8th of February 2024 at 10 a.m. So thank you everyone for your attendance and your contributions. All that remains for me to do now is to close the meeting. Thank you very much.